Chris III on the Finding Garage Gym Life, and today's going to be show and tell because I'm going to show you what's in the box and I'll tell you what I think about it after I've had a chance to use it. This is the Mikolo F4 Power Cage, and so I'm super excited to open this up, find out what's going on about it, because I have actually never heard of this brand. This will be the first time I'm reviewing something for the gym as a piece of weightlifting equipment that I have never actually heard of. So I'm excited to dive all into it. I'm gonna go ahead and put this all together. And while I do that, if this is your first time on my channel, go ahead and hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, because I'm trying to get to 20,000 subscribers. Momentum is building. I need you to help me get there. Be back in a minute once I put this together. All right, I was able to put together the Mikolo F4 Power Cage using just an 11/16 socket and ratchet, an Allen head, as well as the wrench that came with the package. Once I finished putting it together, I did a squat and a bench workout, as well as a few accessory lifts, so I would be able to tell you guys my first impressions of how this power rack operates. So now we're ready to go into some pros and cons. Okay, so pros. The first thing that I really like about this is shipping. All of the boxes arrived with minimal damage, and when I opened the boxes, most of the parts were clearly labeled, which made the assembly process run a whole lot smoother. Not only do you have this instruction manual to help you with the assembly process, but you also have a YouTube video that doesn't have any words, but it goes through the process slowly, and you can literally do what I did, which is go step by step and pause the video as you get to each step and look at it as a reference point as you're putting this together. I love the fact that it has a cable system. When I was using my other power rack, I always had to use a combination of independent low and high pulley attachments that I would attach to the power rack and then maybe attach to a kettlebell or something if I wanted to do low pulley work. And I don't have to do that anymore because I've got an integrated pulley system right here in the rack. I love the fact that because it is closed in, I now have the ability to do reverse band work, which I could not do before because, as you guys can see, my other power rack is open at the top, and so there's nothing to attach my bands to do reverse band work. That is no longer a problem. The Mikolo F4 Power Cage has a small footprint at just a hair over 44 inches across for the cage itself, and about another 15 inches or so for the legs that hold the integrated plate storage. This is important not only if you're installing the rack in somewhere with limited floor space like a small apartment or a spare bedroom, but it's also important because if you have low ceilings, this is not going to be a big deal. So for reference, I am 5'9", 5'8" on the day after squats, and about 5'10" on a good day. And so you guys can see that my hand is above the top of this pull-up attachment. That is good and bad. So of course that means that if I want to do pull-ups, I'm going to have to bend my legs, but I had to do that on my other power rack anyway. In fact, this is the same height as the highest point on my old power rack, but unlike my old power rack, which just had a straight bar, this has multiple handles. So I can go neutral grip, I can do pronated, supinated, I can do mixed grip. Gives me some really good options here, and I really, really like that. Another thing I love is the fact that it's got numbers right here on the rack. When I got my old power rack, numbering the rack hole spaces was not a thing, and so I've wanted a rack with numbered spaces for quite some time, and I love the fact that it's got these numbers in here. They're etched into the metal, and so you don't have to worry about magnets coming off, stickers coming off, or anything else like that because they are here to stay. I love this integrated landmine attachment. Not only does it move smoothly, but because it's integrated into the rack, it's going to save me time. With my old landmine attachment, I would have to get out a bumper plate, insert the landmine attachment into the bumper plate, and then put my bar in there. And this is going to save me 2 steps, which is a big deal if I'm running short on time, trying to get my workout done and get out of the house. Another thing that I wasn't expecting, especially because this is a narrower unit, is that it's a lot more stable from side to side than I expected. And that doesn't just mean that the unit itself is more stable from side to side. You see I'm shaking it right now. But also the bar is more stable. So when I've had narrower power racks in the past, my third power rack was very narrow, and I would run into issues when I was unloading the bar, because if I'm pressed for time, I'll just grab 2 45-pound plates at a time, and then that means with a narrow power rack, you're in danger of the whole thing tipping over. In fact, that happened at IPF Nationals one year. We saw somebody unloading just one side of the bar, and he had the rack tilted in, and the whole thing fell over, and it caused a big ruckus. So you don't want to have that happen. Just if not for the injury risk, but also because, again, if you're in a small space, you're in an apartment or something like that, you don't want to run the risk of having your bar fall off and damage your floor. Your landlord will not like that. But this thing was a lot more stable from side to side than I expected. I love the fact that it's got feet underneath two of the legs that help stabilize from side to side, which is probably why it doesn't wobble this way as much, because it's got these stabilizing feet, and that helps stop it from sliding as much. So with my old power rack, because it had integrated weight storage, as long as I had most of the plates on there, it didn't move around a whole lot. And a lot of other people will bolt their power racks to the floor if they're in a garage or basement. But again, if you are in an apartment, your landlord is not going to want to hear about you bolting your power rack to the floor so it doesn't mess up your bench setup. And the fact that this has these feet on it to stop it from sliding is a really good thing. One other pro is these dips handles. And in fact, this is probably my favorite thing when it comes to this rack. It is even more than the cable attachment. It's these dip handles, because they are not wobbly at all, and you have the option of two different hand spacings. So my dip station that was on my power rack that you see over there was a little bit wobbly. So although I knew it was going to hold my weight whenever I got on it, it kind of wobbled just a little bit from front to back. And so I just didn't feel as secure if I was doing weighted dips. But with this, I don't have any issues. I feel that it's rock steady, rock solid. The handles are a lot more comfortable than the handles on my old dip attachment. And I would say that makes it more user-friendly for more people. So my 7-year-old little girl loves using these dip handles, and they're going to be comfortable for me and her because of the coating, and they're just the right size so they don't dig into my hand too much, while at the same time not being so thick that they're impossible for her to use. The first con that I would say is the assembly process took way longer than it should have. Although this instruction manual clearly labels each part, unfortunately, each step is not outlined in this manual. So what I ended up having to do was a combination of reading the manual and watching the video, which got a little confusing at times because the video and the manual don't have the steps in the exact same order. And so that got confusing. When I was putting in the pulley, step 5 said that you should go ahead and insert the wheels and put the bolts in. But step 6 said to run the guide rope through. Well, there's no way to run the guide rope through if you've already got the wheels for the pulley bolted in. So what the step should have said is you install the wheels and run the guide rope on through the wheels as you're doing each wheel. This has carriage bolts, which I do not like at all, simply because I like to use a set of channel locks, tongue and groove pliers, to hold one side of the bolt as I'm using my socket. And failing that, I like to use an Allen head so I can stick it in there and hold that side stable while I'm using my socket on it. And I was only able to do that on a couple of bolts. Most of them are carriage bolts. I realize that carriage bolts are meant to be inserted into the structure, so the structure itself holds it steady, but you still have to put back pressure with your finger to hold the carriage bolt in when you first get started. And so, you gotta have your hand back there anyway. I would have much preferred being able to use my tongue and groove pliers. This is metric, and so my 11/16 didn't exactly fit on there. It kept on slipping off. So if you are a home gym owner and you're looking to get this, make sure you have a metric set of tools in order to put this together, in addition to the wrench that they're going to send you. And that will make the process go a whole lot faster. Another con is the gauge of the steel. This is a 14 gauge steel, and that just doesn't feel as stable to me, as sturdy, as reliable. I don't have as big a warm and fuzzy with 14 gauge steel as I do with the heavier gauge steel on my old power rack. In fact, when I was screwing the bolts in, I was tightening them down. In some places I could see where the metal was starting to dimple just a little bit, and that does not make you feel good when you know that this is the thing that's supposed to keep you safe when you have heavy weight overhead. Another thing I did not like is the fact that the J-hooks curve up. So you guys can see this J-hook right there, it curves up slightly. I do not like that. if I'm going to come off with a bench the way that I normally do, which is get my arch and then pull it straight out, I'll run into this part of the J hook. And so that means I get my setup, and then I'm gonna have to come out a little bit, out and up and over just a little bit, which is not ideal because now you're messing with your setup, you're not as tight, and that's gonna limit the amount of weight that you can lift safely. So for that reason, it's gonna be a little bit tougher for me to go as heavy as I would want to on the bench. I'm thinking about getting another set of 2x2 J hooks to correct this problem, and that should take care of that problem. Because this is a 2x2 rack instead of the 3x3 rack that I had before, custom attachments like this cup holder don't fit exactly. You see that it goes in here, but there's a little bit of slop and wobble because this spot is empty right here. Now there is a product on Etsy that I was looking at. I was already aware of it, but it's an adapter for any kind of situation like this where you're going from a 3x3 or a 3x2 or 2x3 to a 2x2 rack. And it's basically, the guy sells a product that is essentially a spacer. Now, at the same time, I was able to use this. In fact, I had it set up here on purpose when I was squatting, and I went ahead and racked the weight, and I didn't have any issue. But it's just kind of something to keep in mind. Additionally, I've got some custom safeties with Garage Gym Life on them that don't fit in here at all because this is shallower than my other rack. And so basically those just have to go in storage until such time as I have a rack that they will fit on. And instead I'll be using the safeties that came with this as well as another set of extra safeties that I just happen to have. And speaking of the safeties that came with this, they just don't feel as substantial as my other ones. They're definitely a lot lighter, and I mean, I grant you, they could be adamantium, and them being light doesn't mean they're not strong, but it's gonna take me a little bit of time to trust them as much as I trusted my other safeties, but they do slide in smoothly, and I don't like the fact that there's not a little cotter pin right here that I could use as a keeper. So when you slide this in, the only thing that's stopping this from sliding forward is the fact that it's long. I would prefer if there was a cotter pin back here that would stop it if it came out this way like I had on my old power rack. Another con is the Olympic plate adapters for the cable stack. Now, I love the fact that the cable stack is plate loaded because that makes it even easier to micro load than if I were to use something like a adder weight pin. But what's annoying is this Olympic adapter slides on and off too easily. So every time I'm sliding the weight off, I'm having to constantly put my hand on here to stop this from coming off with the weight. That's a minor thing, but it's just something that's annoying that I do not like. I also don't like the fact that this foot plate is right here. I would have preferred if it were out just a little bit more because it's almost flush with the cable stack. So that means I don't get as much range of motion. I'm not able to kind of lean forward a little bit if I'm doing any kind of seated cable row. But if it came out too much, then that would interfere with me being able to move the bench back as far in position and get me lined up with the J-cups. So I understand why it's not, but that's just something that is kind of like, I guess it's more something to get used to as opposed to a con, but that is something that I noticed. I love the fact that it comes with integrated plate storage, but this is definitely not enough. I have over probably about 1,300 pounds in weight, and that just in 45s alone, I've got enough for 6 per side, and so there's only 2 stands right here on either side of this. That's definitely not enough weight. So I ended up having to go and purchase a set of plate trees. So that's just something to keep in mind if you're buying this power rack to set up your home gym. You're gonna need to add some weight storage, but this rack is so cost effective that having to spend, I spent about $100 for some used plate trees. I played against sports. So it's not going to be a super high expense to add on to your order if you're setting up your home gym for the first time. But again, that's yet one more thing that I'm having to get used to because I had integrated plate storage in my old power rack, and now with this one, I'm not going to have that. But for me, having the advantage of the cable stack overrides the fact that I had to go buy some plate trees because 2 plate trees costs a lot less and have a smaller footprint than a functional trainer. And definitely if I were to get one of those high-end attachments that are integrated in one of those $6,000 racks, I'd be spending a whole lot of money. So for somebody who's just starting out, this is a lot more budget friendly option. I told you guys that I like the fact that I've got the multiple handle options for the pull-up bar, but the problem is the neutral handles are just a little bit too short. So my hand is about a little bit over 4 inches across from here to here. Okay, not counting my thumb. And when I put my hand onto the neutral grip handle, I had barely enough space to get my hand in there. So if you have larger hands than I do, you're gonna struggle a little bit with the neutral grip handles. It's not gonna feel good for you. And I think that if they were to bring the bar out just a little bit more and make the handle just a little bit longer, that would be perfect. So my final verdict on this rack is that this is a good purchase for someone who is just starting out and wants to set up a home gym for the first time. This rack is on Amazon for less than $500, and that means that you're gonna have enough money left in your budget to spend on a good quality bar, depend on you if you put it under stress. I would not recommend this rack for someone, even if they're a first-time home gym owner, if they squat or bench more than 500 pounds, because this 14 gauge steel, I just don't trust it to hold up enough as you are seeking to get stronger. So if you show up and you squat 500 pounds, well, obviously you're gonna be trying to squat 600 pounds. And I just don't think that this is a rack that kind of grows with you, but it is a great rack that will start you off your home gym journey the right way. I'm gonna put the links to everything I mentioned in the description for this video, including the link to purchase this from the Mikolo website as well as Mikolo's Amazon store. And I'm also going to put a link to that assembly video that Mikolo has on their YouTube channel, because I really do think that it is excellent. And if you guys have a question about something that I did not mention or just something occurred to you, go ahead and drop a comment and let me know, and I will address that either in the comments or I'll just shoot a follow-up video, or I may do both depending on what the question is and what the topic is, because I'm going to continue to use this rack over the next few months. I think that one problem with first impressions reviews like this is I can't really tell you 100% all of the ins and outs of a product if I've only used it a couple of times. So I'm going to continue to use this product, and I'm going to continue to be taking your questions about anything that has to do with this rack so that you get the best information to help you make the best choice when you are setting up your home gym. As always, thanks for watching.